Alright, so we had ourselves a video that we made the other day talking about the Edmonton Oilers and how their goaltending has actually been okay. In this video, we talked about Corey Perry, we talked about Stuart Skinner. You can go ahead and check it out if you hadn't seen it already. But because of the big and bad Edmonton Oilers, and I say bad as in good, they've been on an absolute tear, and I think we can make another video later today about how much of a tear they have been on. But in this video, what we're doing is going over some comments made by Elliotte Friedman on recent shows as to what exactly the situation is in net. Now, we did talk about Stuart Skinner the other day. He's been doing all right. But does this mean that other conversations with other goaltenders are dead in the water? Well, let's head over to an article on NHLTradeTalk.com to answer that question. I'll leave a link in the description to this piece published by Jim Parsons from earlier today, because when it comes to what Elliotte Friedman said on 32 Thoughts, he does not believe that the Jake Allen to Edmonton Oilers conversations are happening any longer. While he isn't reporting that a trade between the Oilers and the Canadiens was ever imminent, he is reporting that he believed there was a strong chance that Allen was going to wind up with the Oilers. He no longer thinks so. According to him, the Oilers are reportedly out. Friedman noted this on the most recent edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast. I really do think there was a time this year I thought Jake Allen was going to be in Edmonton. Now I'm not convinced that's going to happen. Part of the reason is likely due to the asking price from the Canadiens. The other reason is because the goaltending in Edmonton has found its stride, as Stuart Skinner is among the hotter goaltenders in the NHL over the past month, and Cal Pickard has played well in a limited backup role. Now, if you remember earlier in the season, everybody was linking Montreal Canadiens goaltenders to Edmonton. Everybody was talking about Jake Allen. Everybody was talking about Sam Montembeault. Everybody was talking about Primo to other teams too. 3 goaltenders in Montreal, all of whom had varying levels of success and talent as the year went on, and a bunch of them got linked over to the Oilers because they were desperate. They needed goaltending help. Jack Campbell got sent down. Stuart Skinner sucked. Everything was falling. The sky was falling. And now, it's been a while, the turn of the calendar, we're in 2024, and things have completely shifted on their heads. Now you have an Edmonton Oilers team that has won 12 games in a row, and by the way, I kind of do want to talk about that win streak in a later video, but this is the situation here. The Oilers don't need a goaltender to replace their starting position. Stuart Skinner has been fine, and when it comes to Jake Allen, we already had word from Kent Hughes where he said that, yeah, I don't think that we're going to trade him, or we don't need to trade him right now. Trade's not totally imminent. We're not shopping him. We're just waiting. If there's an offer that we like, then okay, we'll do it. But for now, we're okay with rotating with 3 goaltenders, Monty, Jake the Snake, and Caden Primo. So, of course, with this in mind, I mean, there are 2 factors on both teams that make it so that a trade doesn't seem a lot more likely now than it did a few weeks ago. But that's okay, because the Montreal Canadiens are kind of chugging along. The Oilers, as we had said, are winning games. But when it comes to the conversation as to Oilers goaltender trades, there actually are still names that we could go out there and talk about. In fact, there was another article that goes over a different idea in regards to Edmonton. We had ourselves another article on the same NHLTradeTalk.com website. This one will also be linked in the description. It was from 2 days ago, January 17th. And their source is the Got Your Back podcast, featuring TSN's Reinbacher, Mike Johnson, and Pierre LeBrun. They went out there and talked about the Oilers as a fit for Minnesota Wild goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury. LeBrun highlighted potential landing spots for the seasoned goalie, emphasizing Edmonton as a sensible destination. Acknowledging the Oilers' need for an experienced netminder to support emerging talent Stuart Skinner, LeBrun suggested that Fleury could play a mentorship and insurance role in Edmonton. So, this is a separate idea, not because the Oilers necessarily need goaltending help, but because Fleury is a good enough goaltender this season who has a, what's his save percentage at? 897, so not the best. I think he's around league average, if just not a shade below, but this is a guy who, in the words of Pierre LeBrun, he's got himself Stanley Cup winning experience, he could bring invaluable leadership to the Oilers locker room, and Reinbacher emphasized Fleury's personality and pedigree, stating he's got the Stanley Cup pedigree. If he's got to go in the net, he's got experience, and I think a fit in a lot of ways. The Oilers do not have a single person on their active roster who has been to a Stanley Cup final. LeBrun further supported the notion that Edmonton stands out as a prime destination for Fleury, given the team's aspirations and the specific role they seek to fill. He's just not sure where Fleury's head is at, and if he even wants to be traded or go to a contender. He might be content right where he is. And with this in mind, we have heard a few ideas tossed out there as to whether or not Fleury could be on the market, if they're going to ask him to waive his no-move clause because he's got one of those. But this is another fascinating idea, where if you think about what Fleury did with the Vegas Golden Knights, this would essentially be a similar thing if he goes over to Edmonton and helps mentor out Stuart Skinner. Fleury has kind of taken that role of being a dad in the NHL now, where he gets onto these new organizations to provide stability, comfort, and a good enough goaltending profile. Like, obviously he's not the best in the world like he was a few years ago, but Fleury still is that bubbly, cool, chill guy who knows what it takes to win. He thanks his posts every time, and he is just a really nice personality. So if there is any mentorship or leadership that he could provide, hey, maybe the Oilers benefit from that kind of a profile. And I will say that if you wanted to have Fleury as a backup rather than Cal Pickard, I would probably be a little bit more comfortable if it was a Fleury manning the pipes in some sort of a sudden death game. If, let's say, Stuart Skinner gets injured in Game 7 of the second round or whatever, and Fleury needs to step in, I'd rather have Fleury in there than Cal Pickard, just because from a longevity and maturity point of view. Of course, no disrespect to Pickard, he's been fine this season, but there is an interesting opportunity here for a guy who can pretty much bring it all if you're the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I get it. You could think about this idea and ask the question, okay, why? Like, if Fleury is so valuable and Jake Allen is not, is there really a difference? Because Jake Allen was also a backup goaltender for a Stanley Cup championship team, and he does have experience. Allen has been around the ringer. He was in St. Louis. He's in Montreal. He's been losing in Montreal. He was winning in Montreal. Allen was a finalist when the Habs made the finals with Carey Price. Like, Allen has exhibited similar levels of success, right? So why is there no value there? Well, I definitely argue that whatever experience Fleury has supersedes that of what Allen has, and because we already know from the Montreal Canadiens now that they're not going to trade Allen away just for craps and giggles, they're just going to do it if they feel like the trade offer they get is good enough, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to try to pry the Montreal Canadiens away from that profile. Meanwhile, for Marc-Andre Fleury, I mean, because we're tossing his name out there in a bunch of rumors, because it slowly entered the conversation, it becomes a little easier to think about that. And also, his experience, I think, of course, as we said, is a little bit better. So, if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, do you think this idea is even worth thinking about? Like, do you want to just roll with Skinner and Pickard heading into the postseason? If Jack Campbell ends up becoming better in the AHL, which I think is slowly coming to fruition, then do you want to just roll with him? Do you want to make another trade? If it's not Jake Allen, is Fleury the guy? And do you agree with Pierre LeBrun's assessment when he says that the Oilers could benefit from the leadership and mentorship of a guy like Fleury? Do you think Skinner can become a better goaltender if Fleury is the one telling him how to position himself and just showing him the ropes and what it's like to being a good goaltender on a championship caliber team? If you're an Oilers fan, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Habs fan, what are your thoughts on Jake Allen's trade price and if he actually is going to get traded this season at all? If you're a Minnesota Wild fan, what are your thoughts on Marc-Andre Fleury getting sent over to the Oil? And what do you think you'd want from Edmonton to make this trade go through? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.